there an issue with sort of the water not tasting good or smelling good normally, or
Well, you know, I have lived here for over 35 years, and I've never drank the water just for the fact that I don't like the way it tastes. But that's just me. I mean, some people have gotten used to it. I never have, so therefore it's just the fact that it's the taste that it's not so much what the plant that it's old. Our water plant is old, so we are going to have to invest money in that. You know, it's also very hard. The water's really hard on your ice makers. I know I had to unplug mine because it wouldn't work anymore because the water's so hard.
a lot of mineral deposits?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I want to ask though about, I know that not much is known about precisely what's in the water, but there's obviously concerns about chemical backwash in it. Is there any sign either of some kind of foul play, involved here, or is this actually perhaps a function of the age of the water system itself?
No, there is no foul play as far as, any kind of anybody coming in and doing anything. Except we definitely believe that it has to do with maybe something in the industrial park that where the companies might be. That's where they're investigating the source. That's where they're looking at what might have happened, what caused it, these chemicals to get into the system.
From an industrial park, you said?
Right, in the industrial park area. And then, because we've already shut off the valve for the water not to come into the Pauline district. So that's why we get flushed the hydrants, and then we'll be coming up with the samples to take to Austin to get tested. And all that is being done. But as far as pinpointing what company or where it exactly came from, that we still do not know.
I see. Is there a particular kind of industry that's pretty big there in San Angelo that nothing like that?
No, not really. We've just had a lot of new companies come in, but we don't know who you would actually say that
might be responsible for it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. We've been talking with Lucy Gonzalez. She's a member of the San Angelo City Council. She's been telling us about industrial chemicals that have affected the water in her district. We spoke on Sunday night.
Support for Texas Standard comes from Raise Your Hand Texas, presenting the Intersect Ed podcast, where the stories of Texas public education policy and practice meet. Available at raiseyourhandtexas.org/podcast and both podcast platforms.
Support for Texas Standard comes from the Tejas Storytelling Festival, online March 11th through the 14th, featuring over 60 storytellers, sharing the magic and mystery of storytelling and music. Tickets available at tejasstorytelling.com.
I'm Lisa Hagen.
And I'm Chris Haxon.
We're the hosts of No Compromise.
An investigation from this station, NPR, and Guns in America.
Our show's about how guns, religion, and race are reshaping politics in this country. Subscribe now and support the work of this public radio station.
KERA is a partner station in Guns in America, a national reporting collaboration. You can find No Compromise wherever you find your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Brad Dahlbeer, morning show host at KERA's sister station, 91.7 KXT. Anytime of the day on KXT, you can hear an eclectic mix of new music, local artists, and legends you love, like the Beatles, Joni Mitchell, Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin. Every weekday morning, I present a special wake-up song at 6, and Brad's final ball at 8. Check out KXT 91.7 FM, streaming at kxt.org or on the KXT app.
Did you ever sit straight up in bed with something circling around your head? You swat at it as it whizzes by and it's just one pesky little fly. You shake your head and twitch your nose and settle down to sweet repose. And when you're just about to doze, fly trouble.
My name is Wizzy Brown, and I'm with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and I work with insects.
Cactus moths are native to South America, and these are moths that attack prickly pear cactus and other cacti in the genus Asclepia. They were found in Texas first in 2017 in Brazoria, Chambers, Colorado, and Matagorda County. Their peak season is going to be spring through fall. They are going to be a small to medium-sized moth. They're kind of a mottled brown color. Larvae are going to be a reddish-orange color, and they have these black dots, and depending on the stage of the larvae, those dots may be really close together and make it look like they have solid stripes on them, but then as the larvae mature, the dots spread out, and then they just have these dots that are going across the body all the way down. The eggs are actually, I think, super cool. They are laid in these long chains by the moth, and so they almost look like spines coming off of the cactus pad. But the big difference here is if you see kind of wonky looking spines on your prickly pear, you might want to take a closer look because these egg chains or the egg sticks are curved in shape. They're not straight like regular cactus spines. So if you see some weird looking spines on your cactus, definitely go take a closer look at it. The larvae are the ones that cause the damage. They live in and feed on the cactus pads, and they can destroy entire stands of cactus. You can kind of see the damage, and they will become translucent, where the inside of that cactus pad has been eaten away. So if you see kind of mottled light brown patches on the prickly pear, again, take a closer look at it. You might want to break that pad open because the larvae are going to actually be inside of that pad. Why they're such an issue, I mean, one, a lot of people use prickly pear as landscaping plants here in Texas, but we're also concerned for the people that are growing this as a food crop. We're trying to get everyone throughout Texas to watch for these, but we do ask people to contact us because there are similar moths that also will be on prickly pear that is very similar to these. So you would need to get either samples of these or really good clear pictures of them, and that can be either to AgriLife Extension or it can be to the Texas Department of Agricultural Plant Quality Program.
Wizzy Brown is a program specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and she's our go-to insect expert. We got more on how you can report cactus moths at TexasStandard.org. For years, Dallas advocates have tried to get a major grocery store to move into the South Oak Cliff neighborhood, but they haven't had any luck. Now they want to build their own by replicating a nonprofit grocery store in Waco. From KERA North Texas, contributor Sujatha Dan reports why this potential solution to food scarcity isn't so easy to pull off.
Our number one seller of produce is our banana and Roman tomato.
David Daniels is the produce manager at the Jubilee Market in North Waco, just 10 minutes from Baylor University. He inspects every piece of produce before he puts it out for customers. If he finds a bruised tomato or pepper, he chops it up to sell in small individual containers.
We don't throw away any produce because as soon as I see it not right, I'll make fruit cups or vegetable cups and put it at a price. Mine $1.25, HEB is $4.50. We can't keep it.
Daniels knows how important it is for Jubilee to succeed. This is the first grocery store in his neighborhood in more than 50 years. The average annual income here is around $25,000, and the closest supermarket used to be 2 miles away. Now it's close enough for moms to send their kids to shop.
I'm a part of something that when they come in, they ask me, what is that? So that makes me proud.
Dallas activist Anja Sanders remembers meeting Daniels a few years ago. She says he was quiet and reserved. The changes she sees in him and his community are remarkable.
Jubilee is really kind of the model for community-based grocery stores.
Sanders leads the Dallas nonprofit Feed Oak Cliff, which works on behalf of a neighborhood which the USDA classifies as a food desert because the closest grocery store is more than a mile away.
That's a neighborhood that has significant health disparities in terms of cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes.
That's why Sanders took her team to Waco in December, a scouting mission to get a look at Jubilee Market up close and hopefully learn enough to replicate the nonprofit grocery store.
Isn't never the chief yesterday of this little thing?
Sanders greets Pastor Jimmy Durrell with a fist bump in the parking lot. He and his wife Janet have lived in this neighborhood for more than 40 years. Together, they founded Mission Waco, a nonprofit with more than a dozen programs, everything from job training to a homeless shelter. Durrell says high on the neighborhood's wish list for decades was a place to buy healthy and affordable food. The building Jubilee now calls home used to host a very different business.
This has become a convenience store by then because everybody had left. So it was very predatory. Dale bread for $1 more than regular bread. Lottery tickets, 40 ounces. But we came over trying to see if they would consider selling the building. They said no way.
But Durrell wouldn't give up. About 5 years ago, Mission Waco finally had the opportunity to buy the convenience store. Durrell says the next challenge was meeting financial expectations. For the market to break even, it would have to sell $60,000 in goods a week. A neighborhood of about 400 shoppers could not sustain that. So Durrell created a public awareness campaign encouraging the greater Waco community to support the market. By the third year, Jubilee was routinely selling $50,000 a week. The market also stocks what its customers want, selling cactus and peppers and specialty items like oxtail and pig's feet. While the store is mostly holding its own, Mission Waco has to make up 10 to 15% of costs each month.
So we have to be even more of a penny pincher. We have to watch money a lot more closely, and still, I mean, we have a model that I think is replicable, but it's always going to be tight.
The neighborhood has changed for the better, David Daniels says, and he thinks the store is behind that. There's a new Mexican ice cream shop on the corner and a chic new coffee bar next door.
That's the difference that grocery store has made. Because I hear people saying it all the time. It has made a difference the way I live, the way my kids live.
This is exactly what Anja Sanders wants for South Oak Cliff. A store full of fresh, healthy food and the hope that comes with it. She's not sure when it'll get off the ground, but she's committed to seeing it through. I'm Sujatha Dand.
This story is part of a series on food insecurity and economic mobility in southern and west Dallas. It's reported through a partnership of the nonprofit Dallas Free Press and the Dallas Morning News. Support from the Solutions Journalism Network.
Support for Texas Standard comes from Texas Oncology, who knows that family, friends, and caregivers play a role in the fight against cancer. With more than 200 locations across the state, they are right here to deliver comprehensive cancer care. More at texasoncology.com.
Hey, this is Steve Inskeep with Morning Edition from NPR News. The morning routine only works if all the pieces come together. You won't have your morning coffee if the machine doesn't work. You won't be brushing your teeth if the toothpaste tube is empty. Well, Morning Edition from NPR News never runs out or breaks down. You rely on us for information you need to get up and get going. Listen to Morning Edition every weekday.
Weekday mornings from 4 to 9 on KERA 90.1, your source for NPR News.
From breakthroughs in science and technology to explorations of humanity, Think is an opportunity to take a deep dive into the topics you're most curious about. We bring you discussions with philosophers, authors, public figures, and policymakers, the people who influence us in ways
because of the law, we can't be like everybody else, and it's heartbreaking.
The law is the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, signed by then-President Bill Clinton in 1996. Nancy Morowitz, a law professor at NYU, says its provisions were sweeping.
They made it easier to deport people, harder for people to come into the country, harder for people to fix their immigration status.
Karina's case, one mistake left her banned from the U.S. In 1997, she was partying with friends in Juarez and tried to join them in El Paso.
I remember that somebody of my friend told me, just can say that you're an American and that's it. Like, we were in a car, and I remember that everybody present their IDs, and I didn't. So I was so nervous because just I have to say I am American. I said it, but with nervousness.
The U.S. officer at the bridge noticed, so she never made it through. Karina says the officer gave her a paper barring her from the country for 5 years. When Karina and Hipolito later met, the couple figured she could apply to enter the U.S. legally once the 5 years passed.